All right, so welcome everybody. Today we're going to talk about, maybe we'll make one shiur, maybe we'll make more of that, we'll see what it's going to be, about problems that really come to us all the time. So together with the great change that we had in global society, which is constantly changing, but it's changed recently so much, together with that, us as a Jewish society, we also experience a certain change and transformation. Just guys, move to the other side so the ladies can sit here, please. One side for the boys, one side for the girls. So, not always we are able to really deal with this change, and we are ready to deal with this change and to give a proper answer to the challenges that arise, all the time, many times as a result of that. For example, if we're talking about, let's say, the exit of the Jew from his environment, local environment, like it used to be, that Jews only work with Jews in Jewish communities. Now that society, global society, allows us to do so, we are experiencing other things. For example, interaction with Jews who are not religious, interaction with non-Jews, and that's, relatively speaking, a new concept altogether. There are still some places, let's say like Borough Park, Williamsburg, maybe Lakewood, Bnei Brak in Israel, a place like this. Hey, I can always have another car. That you would be allowed to, or you could have this kind of interaction only, for example, only men's stores or only ladies stores and so on and so on. But this is only a minority, and that minority really comes to teach us that the majority of the interactions that we have at the workplace is really with people who don't share the same values or beliefs that we do, and therefore how do we challenge, how do we deal with this? And these are tremendous challenges. Unfortunately, because we don't regularly deal with this and prepare, what I feel at least, our students, to our people, our young men and women, to deal with such interaction, many times we make the wrong decisions, and we make decisions that are not really necessarily halachically appropriate, and for whatever reason, halakha usually comes secondary to those pressures that we have, in the workplace, and it becomes a huge problem. Now, decision making that it always seems to be on the losing end. Something needs to be done for that. I mean, we know that our guys go to work, and it doesn't make a difference if you went to Yeshiva University or you went to a different yeshiva the guys go to work and so on and so forth. People need to work. And do we prepare ourselves for that? Do we prepare our students for that? Do we prepare our congregants for that? And the answer is no, and I do believe that needs to be addressed. So, if we're always losing, the question is, does it really need to be that? Does it really need to be that halacha would always sacrifice, will always suffer as a result of that? And of course the answer is no. However, how do we deal with it? Yitzchak, bo shepo. How do we deal with that? So before we're going to start, I really want to make a certain disclaimer about those things, and you might tell me it's a little out of content, but I'm going to tell you it is. So before we continue, I'll tell you first of all, if you have any questions, you can always write to us at rabbigaon@gmail.com. Questions about anything. You need any help, questions, whatever, you can always reach out to that number. The yeshiva also has a website, it's yeshiva@etzion.com. And, feel free to ask. Plus, always feel free to come and join us. We're here in the mornings, we're here at night, so feel free to join us. However, let's go back to what I was referring beforehand. We need to know that an employer is really forbidden to create an atmosphere of abuse in a workplace, and the employer must provide a work environment which will keep and maintain the respect of a person as a human and as a worker. That environment, provided this environment should be an environment that would allow him to do his work, his necessary task, in a environment that is relaxed and is lack of abuse. And that is an abuse. You'll see many times of the things that we have is really a form of abuse. Abuse in the workplace could be determined as a behavior that bothers, humiliates, that is not necessarily physical, and it's directed towards the workers in a repeated way, time and time again. So we have to have this, let's have this in mind when we talk about it. Now, if we're going to try to categorize the areas of problems that we have, we could see that maybe we could really divide those areas into two main sections. Section number one will be problems that would arise in the workplace as of the workplace itself / employer, whatever there will be. For example, let's say problems that we have will be arrival time or departure time that would contradict with shacharit or mincha or arvit. Let's say your boss wants you at a certain time and you're going to have a problem. Should I pray? Should I not pray? How should I pray? These are problems. Could be problems of leaving Shabbat in the winter. Shabbat in the winter, sometimes candle lighting is at 4 o'clock or 4:10. What in the world are you doing if you're supposed to work until 5 o'clock? How do you go about it? These are problems in the workplace. Other problems in the workplace could be dress code. For example, if you are a medical profession, let's say woman in that case, you're required to wear scrubs. Now, I don't know about you, but I used to kind of like it when nurses used to wear skirts. But today, everybody wears scrubs. Even the receptionists wear scrubs. Nurses used to have this thing, on their heads like this. A nurse wasn't something nice. Today, nurses have a beard, but it's a different India. But, when I grew up, nurses were only women, not men. However, if a religious woman is a doctor, or she is a PA, or she is a nurse, or whatever it is, not a receptionist, but she needs to wear scrubs, how do we deal with that? Do we say, everything is being brought up on the altar of work and making parnasa? Do we draw a line? Let's say, for example, wearing a kippah, a yarmulke, growing a beard, wearing a head covering for a woman, head covering, shaitel, no head covering, no shaitel, what to do? How do you deal with it? These are some of the problems that we have. Holidays in the workplace. Holidays in the workplace, for example, there are places, mainly school districts and so on and so forth, that would not allow you to take sick days before holidays. What do you do in Chol HaMoed? Everybody's bringing me water. Man, my doctor would love that. All right, there's 3 of them here now. So, what do? Are you allowed to work on Chol HaMoed? You're not allowed to work on Chol HaMoed, and so on and so forth. Does your rabbi able or willing to give you, to address this problem, to guide you through that? Or he's just going to give you an answer that you want to hear? If he gives you an answer that you always want to hear, switch a rabbi. The rabbi needs to tell you what needs to be done. So these are workplace-related problems. Many times the problems that we have in the workplace really, coexist or lingers over problems that we have in the workplace in a personal manner with the workers there. For example, let's say if we talk about the holidays. We were talking about holidays, our holidays. How about their holidays? Holidays in the workplace of a non-Jewish place. They're making a party. Should I go to a party? A holiday party? Is it a problem? How should I go about it? Can I buy gifts for the holidays? Can I chip in? Can I say Happy Christmas or don't say whatever they say, right? And so on and so forth.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. Johnny Ramadan, whatever you want to, we don't greet people for Ramadan. Why not? But there's a problem of yichud, seclusion in the workplace. There's a problem with the workplace. You know, and am I allowed to be in a way with a woman that's going to violate the problem of yichud? How about physical touch? What is allowed and not allowed to do? Are there certain fields and jobs that I lechatchila should prevent myself from come here to the front? To prevent myself from going into. For example, let's say in the medical field. Right? Are there certain tracks in the medical field that I as a male should prevent from going because it creates a problem? Gynecology, you're absolutely right. Right? You know, and just a regular, things like this. Do I shake hands in the workplace? Again, now let's go to the people, problems with the people that we have. Problems in interaction in a workplace could be problematic if we have, for example, an environment where people curse a lot or they talk in an inappropriate manner. Creates a problem for me. Again, physical contact, shaking heads, hugging, hey, how are you? You know, and so on and so forth. Where do you draw the line? You know, sometimes those things can come, especially, which is really amazing to me. You know, hashtag me too, me three, me four. You know, how is everybody hugging everybody at work? You know, if you come to think about this, you know, where do we draw the line? Is there a line? Should there be a line? More than that. Let's say if we are talking about interaction with people in the workplace, so let's say questions that my co-workers would ask me regarding religion. Many times you have questions from Jews themselves that are not so well versed in Jewish lifestyle about what it is. So they ask him. They would ask you. You know, people would ask you, what makes the food kosher? Did the rabbi bless it? That's what makes it kosher. I blessed your bread. What is this is a question, interaction, politics. Am I supposed to talk to my co-workers about politics? Any problems that would arise, what we call in the coffee corner or in the water cooler. These are challenges that we all have to face. I mean, tremendous challenges we have to face. Food. Interaction of people with food. Am I allowed to use utensils of my company, if it's a company non-Jewish? Excuse me. How about eating on the same table? We know that we have many laws and many halachot in the Shulchan Aruch that really tells us, separates us deliberately between Jews and Gentiles regarding food. Am I allowed to eat with my co-workers on the same table? If yes, what do I need to do? Am I allowed to buy food to a non-Jew? Non-kosher food. Am I allowed to buy non-kosher food to a non-observant Jew? That's your workplace. And you should know that every time you go, people would really look at you under a magnifying glass, because you are a Jew and you are an observant Jew, and you, whether you like it or don't like it, being held to a different standard. People look at what you're going to do. And if you are not going to be prepared to what to do, you're going to fail. There's no question about it. You're going to fail. There are many other topics and subjects and subcategories that, I'm sure are there. And it's really beyond the capacity of what we're going to try to do today because of time and length and so on and so forth. And probably, everybody has their own issues. So if you are, first of all, interested at the end of what we're saying today, if you're interested in another lecture, another shiur on that specifically, we can do this. It's not a problem. We can do it. Let us know. You can contact, again, through the email at rabbigaon@gmail, or contact Ari or Jonathan, whichever it is. and we can arrange something like this, answer specific questions through a lecture or through telephone calls and so on and so forth. However, if there's something that I really wanted, and it surprised me because there were a few women who told me they're going to be there because there was the problem, but I guess, things happen and not here. But if something that I really want to try to focus about today is really the relationship of men and women in the workplace, or the interaction of male and females in the workplace. It is a huge problem, and it is something that is dangerous beyond belief, not only to your own belief system and what you do, but also to your interaction with your spouse or and so on and so forth. So one has to be very, very careful with this. So that relationship, that interaction between the sexes throughout the history is really one of the most intense and loaded subject in human history, in human society, forever. So first of all, I forgot who told me that, but somebody once told me years ago, there's no such thing as platonic relationship. It's impossible. Impossible. That tension exists. You can alleviate the pressure or the tension completely. Impossible. Unless you're taking some medicine and you become like, nothing, But that tension exists. How do you deal with it? What do you do? In Judaism, regardless or opposing to other faiths and other philosophies, Judaism sees holiness in the connection between a man and his wife. And this is a very important thing to remember, because hopefully we're going to talk about modesty as well, and you're going to see maybe what it is. As a result of that point of view, the whole purpose of the laws of tzniut and the separation between the sexes that developed throughout the generation, and it's something that is evolving and developing through the generation, really reflected the views of our sages to really direct the sexual urge of mankind. When I say man, I mean man like mankind, not male, female, man, in order to build a healthy relationship between husband and wife, in order to guarantee the continuation of the generation and to prevent a damage or possible damage to their relationship. When you start to understand and really internalize that, the whole concept of tzniut, modesty, and that separation takes a totally different turn, a totally different aspect, and you really, but you need to understand that. Unfortunately, the reality in which we created and was created to us through the generation is primitive. On the contrary, is anything but primitive. It is extremely sophisticated, and it's such a wonderful system and mindset that really understands the being of a man, again, mankind, to all aspects, understands what women are about, what men are about, but also to protect women. Also to protect women. So together with those advantages that we had and the involvement that we had in the generations in our world, our society has tremendous spiritual challenges and ethical challenges that are not so simple. That advancement that we had in terms of women's role in society, women's interaction in society, not necessarily brought together with that an advancement in morals or parallel advancement in morals. When he talks about lack of control that we have in our current Western society, and many times brings a disastrous situations to marriage life, many times turning a woman from a human to a sexual object, it brings to sexual harassment, and it is our job to stop it and to put all the necessary measures to prevent such a deterioration on our behalf, especially towards women. It's our job to protect it, and we need to understand that. Women are just as important, if not more, than men in your society, in your house, in your family. The quality of your household will be determined by the quality of the woman. She can take a man and make him into a star, or take a man and make him into, I don't know. You know what I'm saying. And we need to protect that, especially Bnot Israel. Bnot Israel are holy. A Jewish woman is a holy creature on a higher level than men is, spiritually on a higher level. And we need to understand this, we need to internalize this. And then, don't you ever forget that every woman that you see is somebody's wife or somebody's daughter or somebody's sister. And I'm sure you have sisters and you have wives and you have daughters, and you know, take it at that. You gotta remember those things. And therefore we must put the halakha as a marker for us, as a beacon of light to us, to guide us how to act appropriately. But in order to know the halakha, we need to actually learn it. And we need to know where we're coming from. Otherwise you're lost. In our workplaces today, as we said beforehand, because of the interactions that we had and the evolvement of the modern workplace, the workplace is the place where the interaction of men and women becomes the main, that's the main place. As a matter of fact, you would probably spend more time with your co-workers than you do with your own wife, or your own husband, or your own children. And that is on a regular basis. It's all the time. And you should know that the workplace itself is the bedding ground for not only to execute the jobs that you have or the tasks that you have, but also it is a place in which we develop a certain culture, the culture of the workplace. And many companies want to develop this culture of the workplace, to make it into like a big family and so on and so forth. And that is something that we need to be on guard all the time. In our society, and you see the big companies like, I don't know, Amazon, Google, and so on and so forth, Apple, all these things, the workplace and the environment of the workplace and the cultures developed in the workplace is like a superior thing. The people of it, companies take great pride in that. Where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line? How do you draw the line? And many times, you know, you need to be involved in that, but you cannot, as a Jew, cross the boundaries of halakha. So let's try to see if there is a way that we could actually, maybe today, start to clarify the way for us and how to behave and to appropriately behave in the workplace in order to really be a part of society. We don't want to be disconnected from society, because we cannot be disconnected from society. It is impossible. We don't live on the moon, and we don't live on an island. If all the Jews would live on an island, okay, I hear you. But we don't live on an island, and for many reasons, there is a reason why we're here. And I do believe, based on the Gemara and some other places, that it brings that our job is to really show what needs to be done. That's why we are a part of society. We should be the model. We should not be the following. We should be the leaders. We should be the light. We should be the beacon, not the followers. And as such, we need to start realizing that, internalizing that, and behaving like that. But the halakha is our beacon. Now, you need to think about it very carefully once you are trying to abandon halakha. what is actually you're doing. And you need to be very responsible for that. Now, so we need to also be very respectful in order to create mutual respect. It is a showcase for us, an opportunity to showcase Judaism the way it is. And believe me, I can tell you stories between now until tomorrow about cases where people really held on to what they held on to, and it was a really Kiddush Hashem, what they did in the workplace. Also, we should be careful not to roll into territories which could be problematic to us. And there is a line, or there's a fine line that should be our beacon throughout the contact with the outside world and so on and so forth. And we always have to stay aligned with halakha. You have to always measure what the halakha is and so on and so forth. However, every rule has an exception to the rule. And if a person feels that this situation affects him one way or another, you should know that you must get yourself a mentor. In other words, get yourself a rabbi who is well versed in halakha and is also well versed with the world around him, that knows what's going on, that will be able to individually guide you to what to or not to do, and to adjust your personal situation to your personality. Plus, if you are married, all these things should be done through the discussion with your spouse. You don't take it alone, because it would affect them as well. Therefore, it's their obligation, to help you, and it's your obligation to let them know, because it will affect them as well. You don't operate in a vacuum. You don't leave the problems behind. We're not Mossad agents that we could do a switch in our hands. I'm here, a Mossad agent, and when I'm home, living my work at home. We are not. Otherwise, you will not be sitting here. So we all bring our work home, and that could be dangerous. So therefore, we need to make our wives, husbands, I don't like to use the word partners, because partnership can always be broken, into the situation, discuss it and talk to them with them. If you don't feel comfortable talking to your spouse, I think you should. It's about time you would. Now, so that's for example, a famous question about shaking hands. Am I allowed to shake a lady's hand? Oh, a lady is allowed to shake my hand. And what do I do, for example, if comes a lady and she sticks her hand to me and says, "How you all doing?" Can I shake her hand?
Depends.
I mean, after all, it's a way of chibah, or affection, or it's just a matter of or just a matter of good manners. Now, there are some people who wants to bring a proof from the Yerushalmi, from Talmud Yerushalmi, Masechet Sotah Daf Gimel Amud Hey, and they say the following: She'en yetzer hara matzui l'sha'ah. Yetzer hara does not exist on things that are going to last you a split of a second. How long is this? A handshake? I don't know, 5 seconds. Yetzer hara lo matzui l'sha'ah. There, and why? Because the Kohen was, when there was the parasha of Sotah, when the woman brings her offering, the Kohen puts his hand underneath her hands, and therefore he's touching her. So if it would not be allowed, so therefore it could not be done. However, if that's the case, why can't I just do a small little handshake, innocent handshake? Isn't that considered to be, let's say, for example, in a business, in a business situation, we have the concept, maybe we'll expand it a little further down. Tahud be'omnato, I'm busy with work, so I don't have time to think about something else. So maybe that's the case also I'm allowed to, because, for example, if you go to a doctor, right, and you have a sore throat, and the doctor just happens to be a lady, she can touch you, it's not a problem. We don't say you can't go to women doctors. However, for example, if you need to go to a urologist, you're a man, Might as well go to a male doctor than to a woman doctor. As much as I would say the same thing to a woman to go to a gynecologist lady, not a man. I do have a problem, but I don't have a problem saying it. I do have a problem with men gynecologists. And if you know about the history of men gynecologists, you see that it was really a field in which men infiltrated because women had absolute control over it. So it wasn't for holy reasons, it was just for control reasons. Anyway, sidetrack. Everybody has problems with that. You can come and see me later on. I really don't care. I gotta tell you what I need to tell you. Not what you're going to like, what you need to learn. So, maybe the person is Tarut B'Omnato, or you go to, we have a whole bunch of dentists here, right? So a dentist, you say, excuse me, lady, I'm going to drill you like this from like a this. It's not going to happen. He has to put his hand on the lip. Or you go to a woman doctor. So that's allowed because it's Tarut B'Omnato. We're going to talk about this later. So maybe in this case would be allowed as well. So the answer is as follows. We're going to do a little bit like a question answer, and then we'll see how we do it, and then we'll go a little further. Tell me when you get tired of me. So the answer will be, first of all, there's no heter. There's no way to say it's allowed to negiah be'alma, just touching. The same thing when you go with your kasher, touching the hand could be a problem. According to the Bet Yosef and according to the Rambam, any form of physical contact, even without affection, is asur midoraita, and that is beyarek v'bal ya'avor. If you want to look further, look in your De'ah, Siman Kuf Tzadik Hey. According to the Ramban, Nachmanides, a touch that is not an affectionate touch is forbidden, but rabbinically, not biblically. And according to the Shach, which is one of the commentators on the Shulchan Aruch, a touch that is not an affectionate touch is not asur min Torah, even according to the Rambam. You can look over there. However, most Acharonim agree with the Shach that a negiah, a non-affectionate contact, is not asur min Torah. However, there are some Acharonim that disagreed, and it says, even though it's asur midrabanan, one of them is Ezer Mikodesh in Siman Chaf, it says, even though it's only midrabanan, it's still a very ugly and inappropriate thing to do. I'm going to tell you the following. Naturally, regardless of how modern you think you are, men act like predators. And I don't think you're going to be so eager to take a change from an, let's say, ugly cashier as it is a nice, beautiful cashier, wouldn't you? Women are a little different than men. As I told you, they're better. But that doesn't mean that they're allowed to eat as well. We'll see. But remember, we are more prone as men to fail because we're predators. We are not here as long as women are. So we always have a need to catch up, as they say. Women here are longer than us. You know why? You don't know why? Because they're made out of bone. It's a harder material than dirt. We are made from earth. We're made out of bone. They're harder. Now, in any case, it is clear that a handshake of a woman, let's say, it's not an affectionate thing. She just want to shake his hand. Harav Moshe Feinstein brings this opinion that it's not a deref or chiba or tava. It's not a matter of affection or desire. Hugging is different. There is no discussion whatsoever. And by the way, I don't know when this hugging comes about. When I came to America about 30 whatever years ago, 31, 32 years ago, people did not hug so much. All of a sudden we got into this whole kumbaya feeling, everybody's hugging everybody. I don't want to hug you. No men, no women. It's like bizarre. In Israel also, when I grew up there, nobody hugged. I go to Israel, everybody hugs and kisses. Wait a minute, hello, private space, too martial art here, be careful. Don't hug me so much. But hugging bichlal is asur. That is completely show of affection. Then we need to be careful. Affection affection is good for those of you who are in relationship, for your husband, for your wife, for your kids. That's where you need to give affection. Don't be so eager to give affection to strangers when to your family you don't. There is a way to express it in a good way, in a kosher way. And we need to remember that. You want to hug women? Not a problem. You have a wife, you have daughters when they're young. That's about it. Forget about your aunts and so on and so forth. That's another sugya. Now, according to Rav Moshe Feinstein, he says that this is not derech v'chibal ta'ava. However, his conclusion, it is something that is really hard to rely on. That opinion, that svara, that thought, that a handshake, even though it's not really a show of affection or desire, still it's something that is not so comfortable with that. And you can look further in the Grot Moshe in Even HaEzer Chet Nun Vav over there. And the Ben Ish Chai writes also, Ben Ish Chai writes that it is a negiah of chiba. Now, Rabotai, you always tell me, well, the Ben Ish Chai says this, so therefore I can do it. And Ben Ish Chai tells you here, you can't do it. You can't pick and choose. Well, you can see. And you can look in audios of Chai, and it's brought in Otzara Poskim in Even HaEzer. You can look over there as well. And also Sefer Hasidim says, the Isur Kiyat Yad Leisha Legoy. It's also Asur, not only for a woman to shake hand with a Jew, but it's also Asur for her, forbidden for her to shake hand with a non-Jew. Even though it only looks as Minhag Nimus, even though it looks like just good manners, it's still not to do so. The Baal Kiot Yaakov Rav Kanievsky says in the name of the Chazon Ish that shaking hands is like hugging and kissing, and that falls under the category of Yahareg V'Bal Ya'avor, and that brought in Sefer Ta'arat Am Yisrael, and in Shut Mishneh Halachot, and Shut Ba'er Moshe, and so on and so forth. However, the Rav Arenberg was really doubtful if sticking your hand, such as somebody sticks a hand to you and then you stick it back to them, maybe it's not a way of chiba, it's not a way of affection, it's just only a way of manners. Let's say a woman comes, she stretches her hand out, so it will be only a matter of good manners for me to shake hand to her and so on and so forth. However, he rejects that. He wants to see really, what he wants to do is really divide between the two. The initiator, that stick his hand out, why do they do it, and the one who actually receives it, why do you answer with a handshake? And he says his conclusion is that you cannot be makel in that. Even if the woman is mitkavenet lechiba, right, and therefore you stick your hand, it will be a problem on your part because you'll be lifnei iver. She doesn't know she's not allowed to do so. You know it's not allowed to, so therefore if you do so, you are helping her to commit quote-unquote a sin, or to do something that is wrong. And it's your fault. She doesn't know, you know. You know you helped her to do something wrong. That is not good. There are some people who say that there is a matter of maybe halbanat panim. I'm going to embarrass them if I'm going to do so. And the answer is, as the Rambam says, there is not. There is not, because it's not a matter of halbanat panim, right? Because I'm not the one who is embarrassing her. She so-called embarrassed herself by sticking the hand out. Now, there is a question, and by the way, this is also true regarding family. Mother-in-law, older sisters, adult sisters, and so on and so forth. Cousins. We're not Italian. It's not a part of our culture. Many of these things were adapted by us observing other cultures, but it doesn't mean that it is as ours. Now, Rav Moshe Feinstein has a very interesting tshuva, and it's Even HaEzer Bet Yudalet over there. He says, regarding taking a subway. If a person takes the subway, and we're going to come to it later, it says that if he's going to come the day Hiru, is it going to come to cause him bad thoughts and so on and so forth, he should really prevent himself from taking a subway. Especially in the summer, everybody's like, Chava before the sin, right? So, if you know that you cannot prevent yourself from doing something, don't go. Unless you need it for work. If you need it to work and so on and so forth, there's no way for you to prevent it. You can take a car, a cab, an Uber, or airlift, or whatever it is. Call the Marines. You can't do anything. Go take the subway. When the thought comes to your head, what are you going to do with it? Start learning Divrei Torah. Take a Daf Yomi today. It's wonderful. You have your telephone. You can have the whole entire Shas on the telephone. Read, learn something, do something productive instead of sitting idly and just fantasizing, which is overall a very bad thing for you to do. You don't want to live in a fantasy. You want a reality. Well, that's a way for you to practice. Start learning and so on and so forth. By doing so, you could be mitchazek. And as the Rambam says, you could do so and actually go to work by doing such an act. In other words, slowly, you're gaining control over your life. Okay? You think about the fact that if you see something, let's say for example, arguments, like I'm using women as an example, but let's say you see a beautiful, gorgeous woman, and dress up very provocatively. The fact that you did a turn, you lost control. You are not control. You are not in control. If you ever speak, talking about Mossad agents, if you ever speak to a Mossad agent that really trains himself not to have an Israeli identity, they would train themselves, complete control, not to respond to any Hebrew heard anywhere. I heard a story from a Mossad agent lady that she trained herself so well that she went one time with her daughter in an airport. And her daughter says, "Ima!" And she ignored her. And the daughter remembers that. She was like, 3, 4 years old. The daughter at the time was like 35, 36 years old. She still remembered that. So, when you look, you're not in control. You lost control. And we don't want to lose control. One way to deal with things is actually to be in control of things. You control the situation. You can overcome this. It's a tremendous achievement. You learn. You become wiser. You learn more about yourself. You can fix things. You can actually achieve things like this. Now, doing hana'ah or deriving pleasure from a sight that is forbidden, whether it's for sure or almost for sure, there's no heter for that. As it brought in Masechet Pesachim in Daf Chafei, Amud Bet and Chavav Amud Aleph over there, a person is not allowed to bring himself to a place that he knows he might fail. However, in situation when it's not going to bring us to chashash of an isur, there is room to be made to that. For example, as we find in Masechet Avodah Zarah in Daf Chaf Amud Bet, that you're not allowed to look at women's color clothing. Why? Shema Yavol Yadei Yiru. You might come to think you're going to see some fancy women clothing, and you go, oh. So the question is, those days they had men who used to do laundry. They used to go to the river. There was a hard labor. So how are you going to bring your clothes or your wife's clothes? How does she bring the clothes to the guy who does the laundry by the river? It's very simple. He is busy doing his job. He's busy doing his job. So therefore we're not concerned for that. And it's called Tahud be'avodato. He's busy with his job, and therefore he's not thinking about the woman who's wearing this clothes at that moment. Therefore, any other job that requires that, and mainly it will be, let's say, doctor, physical therapist, and so on and so on. By the way, to become a masseuse for men, if you become a masseuse for men, that's terrific, only for men. A massage therapist. Today everybody's a therapist, right? I guess I'm a Torah therapist, whatever it is. Everybody's a therapist, and everybody has a syndrome. Or I knew this girl. She was a massage therapist, but she only dealt with women. Believe me, she had a lot of business. So, however, physical therapies, OTs, and stuff like that, they're busy in the job. You're allowed to do so. However, there are fields that a person, as we said before, which I feel strongly about. And by the way, another thing is, with all due respect to doctors, we all like doctors. They keep us, hi doctor, they keep us healthy and so on and so forth. But there is a limit to the idle powers that we give to doctors. It's not all in the altar of medicine and being healthy that everything is allowed. There are limits to that as well. As I said to you before, I feel very uncomfortable when a man tells you he wants to become a gynecologist. I've got all fields of medicine. That's the only thing you want to be. Don't tell me you're interested in the miracle of life. I don't believe that. So pick yourself something else that you can do that will give you also the miracle of become a cardiologist, for crying out loud. Now, in Masechet Kiddushin, it says that we found the words of Shmuel, which is really fascinating. It's a tremendous chidush, and it's extremely fascinating. And he says, he has a rule, and it's really, really revolutionary. And it says, according to him, there is no isur or definitive isur unless we know who we are talking about. In other words, Hakol L'Shem Shamayim. A person needs to know where he's holding. And this is what the Ritva brings as well. Hakol, and I'm quoting, Hakol kifi ma she'adam makir be'atzmo. All according to what you know where you are. And you know who you are, and you know what turns you on or turns you off. You know who you are. So according to you, that's a tremendous thing. However, he says, if a person ראוי לו לעשות הרחקה ליצרו עושה, ואם מכיר בעצמו שיצרו נכנע וחפוף לו, מותר לו להסתכל ולדבר. You're allowed to look and you're allowed to talk. If you know that, you know, for you, you're talking to a woman, she's like a tree for you. Or a woman to a man, and so on and so forth. Even so, he says, ואפילו לשאול בשלום אשת איש, אלא שאין ראוי להקל בזה, אלא, you should not be lenient about it, unless a person is a chassid gadol shemakir b'yitzro. A person really, really working himself very hard, and he knows that his yetzer is really, he's in control of his yetzer, only then is allowed to do so. And that heter that Shmuel over there in the Gemara, when he says Hakol L'Shem Shamayim, which is really a heter on a personal basis. However, each case to his own. It's not something that is across the board, you're allowed to. Each case to itself. In other words, you cannot and should not rule this for yourself. And he says, and he adds, the Ritva adds, she'en le'akel bekach lekol adam. You should not be lenient across the board for it. Everybody, it's all allowed, it's all mutar, mutarim lachem. That's not the case. Why? Because those things will bring you letakala, velemichshol, you're going to stumble, you're going to fail, and that's going to be a problem. However, with all due respect, to all this, there are societal changes, and especially when it comes to the transition of time, things change. And in many times we found that those halachot, by the way, are you okay to go? You continue or you want to stop? Anybody wants to stop?
Keep going. Again.
Keep going. Okay. So many times we find that those halachot that are dealing with interaction between men and women really depends on time and space, or time and location, should I say. The Tosfot in Masechet Kiddushin in Pei Bet Amud Aleph wrote that according to this din, to Hakol L'Shem Shamayim, we count on the fact, and we can actually use women in terms of using women for certain needs. And what they're talking about, that became a heter across the board because there was no intent of enjoying that service that the woman offered me at the time. Okay? So, the Pnei Yoshua in Masechet Kiddushin in Amud Ayin writes, according to some of the opinions of the Gemara, asking a woman, saying hello, it's not a matter of chiba, it's not a matter of affection. It's something that people are used to. How you doing? How are you? By the way, you should know that I myself don't speak to my neighbor's wives and on first names. I don't call them by their first names. I call them always Mrs. So-and-so. First of all, to respect of the husbands. And the respects that I have towards these women that allow the husband to become what they become. And also, just to put a little gap, a little space. There's nothing wrong with that. We're not friends. I'm friends with the husbands, I'm not friends with the wives. It doesn't mean that I'm not friendly. Hello, how you doing? How are you? Which is okay, because that's a derech of nimus. The Maharam Sheikh in Even HaEzer Nun Gimel writes that because of that, there is a minhag to be makel that. Halevush in Orach Chaim and Minhagim Lamed writes, שנוהגים לברך השמחה במעונו, אף שנשים וגברים ביחד. That we make the simcha, the bracha, simcha במעונו, even if men and women are sitting together. However, Rav Ovadia Yosef writes, no, we don't make the bracha of השמחה במעונו when they're sitting and mixing up together. That's why weddings or mixed weddings create a halachic problem, especially for Sfaradim. Why? Because in a ta'arovet of men and women together, especially when there is rikudim, dancing and wine and so on and so forth, not only the people are dancing, also the Satan is dancing. That's why we don't make a simcha me'ono in such a case, and that's why it's another good reason to have separate weddings altogether. The Tzitz Eliezer writes that you're allowed to walk after a woman, because we know the halacha is, the halacha says you're not allowed to walk after a woman. A woman walking, you're not allowed to walk after her. Walk to the side, cross the sidewalk. I know many people who do so. However, the Tzitz Eliezer writes that it is not a problem to do so. You're allowed to walk after a woman. Why? Because today reality has changed. What do you mean reality has changed? Those days women used to sit at home, and at most they used to sit at the footsteps of their houses. They didn't go out to the market, they didn't go out to work. It wasn't like this the case. Today women do so. Since reality have changed, together with that we became more brute, it's not so sensitive to us anymore. However, if a person knows and feels that if he walks after a woman, all kind of ideas comes to his head, cross the sidewalk, go somewhere else. Okay? We are talking about responsible people, but yet you see the reality has changed, so certain things are allowed. And that's because, again, we used to see women like this. However, he also brought the words of Rav Zalman Auerbach to be making that in a place of makom mitzvah or makom nimus, when it's a matter of good manners or it's a matter of mitzvah, that you're allowed to do so. Rav Ovadia Yosef writes in Yabia Omer, in Orach Chaim Vav Yud Gimel, he brought from Sefer Derech Pikudecha, he writes, Al tarbe sicha im ha'isha. In other words, don't talk a lot with a woman, and that is mishtane with time. And he writes, and I'm quoting, ולא מצינו תלמיד חכם ירא השם שישקלו בפלס דבריהם שלא להרבות שיחה עם האישה. We saw many תלמידי חכמים that everything they do is like this, and they still talk to a woman. ונראה לומר, according to the Levush, since women, and the Aruch HaShulchan writes also, since women matzui beinenu, it's something that we get used to, so therefore it's not such a big deal that you talk to a woman, because they're always around us, and that's okay. However, this is true, with another woman, dafka bizmanam, when they say kol kavodah bat melech pnima, the woman was inside, and every time a woman will go out, a person will be mitpayel, wow, it's amazing. It's like, for example, if you go to, I don't know, you go to the army and there are no women around, you go to jail, chas v'shalom, there's no women around, you see a woman, doesn't make a difference, she can look like a giraffe, you know, she's still, wow, she's amazing, she's a woman, right? That's the case. However, women are around us, we get used to it, it's not such a big deal anymore. However, Arav Nachum Eliezer Rabinovich brings further that the halachot that are connected or are dealing with separation of men and women depends on time and place and the sensitivity of the people to different things that would influence the atmosphere. And of course we're talking about women, men and women who really live in society and, you know, norm, whatever is the norm of the society. However, there are circumstances in society that are going to be more of a point of bringing things up or bringing things down. For example, you go to parties, you go to things like this. That's a place that you should not be talking, because then you become more chilled out and relaxed. Remember, we talked about working to the workplace, which becomes a problem now if you're going with your buddies to drink, or you're going to a Christmas party or after hour party in a bar. Becomes a big problem. That is it's a huge problem. Not even going to the bar itself, which halachically going to the bar itself is aser. A Jew should not go to a place to have a drink where alcohol is being sold. You can't do that. That's against halakha. However, when even in your office, well, over there, either you don't go, and if you have to go, you don't drink. That'll be the perfect time for you to show your great graces as a colleague and volunteer to answer the phone. You guys go party, I'll answer the phones. So that's something that you have to do, because what will happen, we're going to fail. The level of sensitivity is down, and we allow ourselves to do things that otherwise we would not be allowed to do so, and that will become a fail. We're going to fail. We're going to fail morally, and we're going to fail halachically, and so on and so forth. So, okay, so let's go back to the tshuva of Rav Moshe Feinstein about the fact that we're allowed to go on a subway, even though it's very difficult. Imagine the F train or the E train at like 6 o'clock in the summer. Everybody's like, sometimes it's very difficult to prevent yourself from actually touching another body. Sometimes you can stand like this in a train without holding to anybody. There's so many people packed there. So what do you do there? That means that I'm allowed to shake a hand of a woman who sticks a hand to me. The answer is no. Because Rav Moshe Feinstein says it is kasher le'achzir et hayad. It's very difficult for me to find a way to be matir, shaking a woman's hand. She puts out to me. And Rav Reuven Feinstein asked his father one time, is it allowed to sell chametz to a non-Jewish woman? Because what we do is when we shake the chametz, we sell the chametz, we shake the guy's hand. And he says that there's no chisaron in mechirat chametz, there's no difference between selling chametz to a goy or to a goya. Why? Because en maaseh yadeh shel hanochit leba'ala. It doesn't go to her husband. And regarding the shaking of the hands, in terms of that, either you don't shake a hand, or you're going to let the Jewish woman shake a hand to finalize the deal, and that will be sufficient enough. In other words, even when you need it for something like a mitzvah or mechirat chametz for rabim, even then Rav Moshe Feinstein did not say it's allowed. So you have to remember that. So again, if we're going to say, as we said before, maybe it's going to embarrass her, and the answer is no. It's not going to consider an embarrass. Why? Because I'm going to ask you a question. A woman comes to you, or a man comes to you, lady, always say, but you know what I'm saying. A woman comes to you, or the person from the opposite sex comes to you, and wants to shake your hand. Now, what are you going to tell me? Kiddush Hashem, it's a whole kind of list of things going on. So I'm going to ask you a simple question. A guy is going to invite you to his house. You're going to go there. He's going to give you non-kosher food. Now, if you're not going to eat it, he's going to get very embarrassed. You're going to eat it? Huh? No? You're not going to eat it. So why are you going to shake your hand? If not me, of course, because I'm not going to do it, but let's say you have a rav of a shul, okay? And he comes to you and he says to you, I would like you to marry my daughter. And his daughter is ugly. Are you going to marry her not to insult the rabbi of your shul? It's not even a halacha not to marry the rabbi's daughter. But of course you're not going to do it. So you see the gap that there is within yourself. Why aren't you asking yourself that? I'm going to tell you something. Regarding Parnassah, they did a research in Israel. I was fascinated reading this research. Religious women, who excelled up in the business world in Israel, and Israelis, let me tell you, they're harsh when it comes to religion, were women who would not budge on their religious values. So it has nothing to do with that. And you're going to tell me, Rabbi, I got to shave my beard. I tell you, guys, in the business world, Remember Ben Bernanke? He is a Jew, he had the beard. Didn't seem to bother him. Didn't stop him to be the Federal Reserve Chairman. What I'm trying to explain to you, that most of the time, it is your imaginary incompetency that causes you to bend halakha instead of follow halakha. You have to be very confident in who you are and what you represent. You need to set an example. Now, there's a story, few stories of Rav Ovadia Yosef. In Israel, they have like a Pras Yisrael, being very nationalistic that they are. They have special rewards that they give for people who do great things. So there was a Pras Yisrael that they give for his, when he wrote Yabia Omer and so on and so forth. And he came, and Golda Meir was the prime minister at the time. So there's a whole list of people, standing on stage, and that's broadcasted on TV, and all the elite of Israel is there watching everybody gets those rewards. And he shakes his hand, and he shakes his hand, he comes to Golda Meir, and he goes like this. Everybody was like this. He says, listen, I'm sorry, I don't shake hands. There's not a problem doing so. There was tremendous Kiddush Hashem in terms of him. They said to him, listen, you really cause a discomfort here and in an uncomfortable situation. He says, I'm sorry, I don't shake hands. Kidum halacha, kiyum halacha, making the halacha is kodem lakol, comes before everything. At night, he got an apology that that they put him in an uncomfortable situation. The same situation happened when the President of the United States came to Israel, when Rav Ovadia Yosef was the chief rabbi, and when a person like this comes, the chief rabbis are there also, and so the Supreme Courts and judges and so on and so forth. He shakes hands, he shakes hands, he shakes hands, and together with him was the Mrs. of the First Lady. And he did not shake her hand. He did not shake her hand. And right away they explained to the First Lady, he says, I'm sorry, he's the rabbi, he cannot shake his hand. And the same thing happened when he went to the Queen of England. And then when they looked at the protocol, they saw that the Queen, it says in the English protocol, that the Queen should not shake the rabbi's hand. And they sent him an apology. Now you ask me, well, that's because he's Rav Ovadia Yosef. He knows the halacha. And I'm going to tell you this. You're right. He's a Rav Ovadia Yosef, knows the halacha. You should know the same halacha as well. You could be like that. Do so in a respectful manner. Women are not chas v'shalom muktzeh, or there's something wrong with them. It's just a separation out of respect to them and respect to who you are. Now, so let's ask another question. Is the whole concept of halachot tzniut somewhere, like putting women down, isn't that a concern that religious people will be poresh min hatzibur? They're going to be so different, they're actually going to make people run away from Torah rather than running towards Torah. The answer is, on the contrary, that tzniut, the laws of tzniut, guard the kavod, the honor of women, from the yetzer of the men. As I told you before, men are predators. And Rav Kook writes in the Midah Ruya over there about the Erech HaTzniut, and according Midat HaTzniut goremet tovot rabot ba'olam. Being tzanua and modest causes a lot of good to happen in the world. ומתוך כך היא זוכה לדחות מפני הדברים שהיו טובים מצד עצמם. And because of that, things that might look good as their own. However, כיוון שמפני יצר הרע של האדם וכוח החולש יגרמו לפרוץ במידת הצניעות. Shaking somebody's head out of respect, out of good manners is a good thing. However, since we are weak, that will cause us to break the boundaries of modesty and morality, which is the kiyum, the existence of this world. Therefore, we need to do whatever is appropriate and nice to do and act betzniut. And so it says in some other books, ha'achaka shel hatzniut me'eshet re'ehu, the fact that the man should separate from a married woman or another woman, eina ba mitoch kin'a vetzarut ayin. doesn't come because I'm jealous that he has a wife like this and so on and so forth. Chalila, כי מתוך תואר הנפש וקדושת המידות והמעשים, because of sanctification of what we know is right and appropriate. We need to live lives that are more holy and more righteous in all aspects of our lives, even when it comes to interaction of people like that. So, what happens if somebody does like this? Well, one thing to do is, of course, always use your judgment. And you have to do so in utmost respect and manner. You can bow down, put your hands down and say like this. Let's say, for example, you go to an interview, and if you feel that you can't do so, I told you many times, take a tissue in your hands, sneeze or cough into the things, I'm sorry, I have a cold, I can't do it. Nobody would like to shake your hand. And you need to train yourself that it's okay. Your interview will, if you had a great interview and you came out of a place of confidence, people will forget you're sneezing, and as I always have cold, I have allergies. You can fake an allergy, go sneeze some black pepper into your nose and then sneeze into your thing. But there is no way to allow to do that. There's no way to do so. Not everything is about parnasah and so on and so forth. Now, we need to remember, I'm skipping some things because I see it's getting a little long, and I need to tell you the following, and remember this, that the Torah is timeless. Torah is timeless. And its wisdom and counsel is timeless through the ages. It will guide us through the ages. And it would outline us the necessary steps in the journey forward that we all need to take in terms of our Jewish identity and self-discovery. But we also must learn and practice all the time. Learn and practice. Without knowledge, you would fail. You need to increase your Jewish pride. We don't have it so bad. Imagine you were Sikhs. You have to wear a turban. How many of us will stay? And we'll maybe sometime talk about the issues of head coverings and kippas and so on and so forth. But you must develop a Jewish backbone. You must develop Jewish pride. Who you are and what you are. And believe me, if you are so concerned in Kiddush Hashem, when you're going to politely stand for what you know is right, and I can tell you this for a fact, people will not curse near you, people will not tell dirty jokes near you, people will respect you and would come forward to you as a beacon of light in their darkness of their lives. Again, if you have questions, you could do so at rabbigaon@gmail.com. You can go to our Yeshiva website, Etzion, one word.com. We also on Torah Anytime, and we also at YouTube. But more than that, I really, really would like to see each and every one of you every day here. We're here in the mornings, and we're here at nights. If you want to leave your numbers with Ariel, you can write it down and give you updates. That will be wonderful. It was a pleasure to see you. If you're interested in continuing these topics of workplace interactions, feel free to do so. I'm looking forward to see you and have a great week.